Hello, and a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to today's much anticipated postgrad webinar service. Today's service is brought to you by Heriot-Watt, who we've heard from before, but about the ever popular topic of becoming an actuary. Now, today's session is on the 5th of February 2026. It is live, so if you have any questions and you are watching and you're one of the many students watching live, please pop your questions in the Q&A box at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on what you're watching it on. There is also a chat facility. Please feel free to say hi, where you're from. It'd be great to hear from so many different people. And if you are watching on demand, if you're watching on our website, postgrad.com, on our YouTube channel, or on our social media channel, please email webinars@postgradsolutions.com. If you have any admissions type questions, or even if you have a question for Andrew, who you can't find his details, please let us know. But for now, Andrew Stott is the Associate Professor of the Actuary Program. I'd like to introduce you personally now. He'll be taking you through the next 35 to 45 minutes. I'll be back for the Q&A. Any problems, let me know. Andrew, floor's yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this masterclass on becoming an actuary. Before we get going, I think I'd just like to say just a little bit about kind of my history. So I didn't study actuarial stuff. Or at least not initially. I studied physics at uni. And when I got to the end, I was just going to do a PhD. But I decided to do three interviews just for interview practice. So I applied for three jobs and I managed to get three interviews, which is a ridiculous hit rate, by the way. I applied for three, and the first one was a data computer programming job. That's right. And completely messed up the interview for that. They were asking me stuff about carrying tablets across a river. I had no idea what they were talking about. Second one was an actuarial consultancy job. So that's a job where you kind of go out and you speak to other companies. And that one I also screwed up because they asked me to do a presentation and gave me 20 minutes to prepare. I couldn't think of anything to say. It was just really bad. The third one was a whole interview day rather than just 2 hours. And it was for a company called Standard Life, which was a life insurance company. And I woke up this morning, that morning rather, and felt excellent. And I had a cup of coffee and I felt even better. And then I went in. The morning was like tests, kind of written tests, aced them, had the interview, went really well. There was one question I couldn't answer, but I managed to kind of wangle my way around that. And then they said that they weren't assessing us at lunchtime, but of course they were. And so I spoke a little bit, but didn't speak too much. And the group stuff in the afternoon was fine. And at the end of that, they offered me the job. And I thought, there's no way if I did a PhD, I would then go back and do an interview a day again and do it as well as I did on that day. So I took the job, and that was my complete sliding doors at moment. So my kind of life kind of flipped or changed at that point. And I spent 10 years in that company doing all sorts of different jobs. And eventually, much later on, switched across to teaching at Heriot-Watt. They were looking for people like me who had worked in industry for a particular program, which we'll talk about later. Anyway, let's get into the slides. So this is what we're going to talk about. A few different sections. Basically, the first section is mostly like, what is this actuary thing all about? And I'll try and explain that in different kinds of ways. And then second section is much more, how can Heriot-Watt help you if you decide that you want to follow this kind of career and use a university to help? Now, you don't have to use a university to become an actuary, but it's a choice. And so you need to make an informed choice if you're interested in this as a career. Two of our students, Antoine and Dhruvi, are with us today, and they'll come in around about the middle and chat about different aspects from their perspective. Okay, let's kick off. So why become an actuary? And let me just move that out of the way. So if you like maths, it's going to be a job that you enjoy. If you're good at maths, it means you're a job that you'll be able to do well, which is even better. So, by good at maths, I mean typically maybe you've done maths and stats at undergrad type level, but not necessarily. So, for instance, I'd done physics, that's still a maths type degree, or economics, maths type degree, maybe accountancy, maths type degree. So, something that kind of demonstrates that you're good at this kind of thing. If you're interested in getting a good salary, actuaries are paid well. And if you want to be a professional, so a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant, they're all professionals. Um, and that means that they have some kind of like standing in society. There's a certain expectation of them. So you would expect a lawyer to know how to do the law or what the facts associated with the law are to a certain standard. You would expect a doctor to be trained in how to remove your appendix. So there's a certain kind of quality level, if you like, associated with these kinds of jobs. And that quality level is controlled by people having to learn stuff and pass exams to demonstrate that they're operating at a certain kind of level. Well, an actuary is very similar to this kind of thing. The other thing that's nice about the actuarial role is that maths is the same language in any country. So, although the languages that we speak change, maths is the same. So, once you've learned how to do it, it's very transferable. If you're interested in traveling, you can do. When you're working in a new country, maybe there's some new regulations to learn, but it's not that much. The core of what you're doing is always the same. So when I was working in Standard Life, I had opportunities to work in Ireland, Germany, Austria, and India. In the end, I didn't take any of those opportunities, but it was very easy if I'd wanted to just do them because I would just be transferring inside the company. I wouldn't really even need to apply for a different job, if you know what I mean. And this is the slide that's just to try and give you an idea of salaries. I don't know if the kind of screenshot is too small for you to read, but basically, when you're just qualified as an actuary, so you kind of passed all the exams and you're just about uh, yes, you're just qualified. It's around about say £70,000 a year in UK money. And I put some exchange rates at the bottom here. So when you see these slides after they're emailed to you, you can change these numbers into numbers you're more familiar with. Um, Although it's paid well, work-life balance is good. Well, in the UK anyway. I'm not sure, maybe in your country it might be slightly different, but for me, the company I worked for, I say started about 9, finished about 6. Um, I remember, I remember before I applied for those 3 jobs, I went to a careers fair and a bank called Solomon Brothers, and I said to them, I don't care how many hours you want me to do Monday to Friday, but I would need my weekends off. And the guy there looked at me and said, "This is not the job for you." So there's no mental exploitation of you, like within an investment bank. So you're not paid the 6 figures that you get in an investment bank, but you are paid very well for what it is that you do. And as I say, company I was in anyway, life much more balanced. In a consultancy type company, I would expect to do slightly more hours, but not necessarily mental. And that's my UK experience. Other countries may vary. In terms of what actuaries actually are, or what they actually do, they are experts in insurance, they're experts in data science, they're professionals, and they work in lots of different areas in finance. So in terms of the insurance thing, basically that means if say I got like insurance on my phone, and then I dropped and smashed my phone, then the insurance would either buy me a new phone or give me a new phone, or they give me the money to give me a new phone. So the insurance protects you in some sense from, in this case, the phone damage thing. You get lots of different kinds of insurance and lots of different kinds of people and companies buy insurance. So I might buy insurance for my phone, but a company might buy insurance for something like, say, cyber risk. So all of their computers getting hacked and them having to shut down business for a few weeks. Um, they could be protected from the financial cost of that. In terms of the data thing, basically, in order to try and predict the future, you use everything you have available. And then one of the main things you have available is data. Typically, lots and lots of data, although sometimes there's a problem with not a lot of it. And there are two different ways in which you can use it. You can either use maths to kind of process it in some way and come up with some kind of prediction for the future, or nowadays you can use the computer for that, and that's something called kind of machine learning tools, or sometimes the words data science are used for that. Professionals we've covered, and in terms of the areas that actuaries work in insurance, in pensions, banking, investment, and risk control. So for me, I was in an insurance company. My first job there was kind of in the back end of the insurance company, and that's about making sure that if somebody had phone insurance, we need to have enough money to pay for the phones that people break. So I would be working out how much money we needed to do that. Later on, I was working in pricing, which is working out how much people should pay for their phone insurance. Both of those very mathematical jobs. I'm in front of the computer a lot. Lots of different kinds of problem solving, some short-term problem solving, some longer-term problem solving. And then later on, I was in a kind of an area called product development or marketing. Marketing is kind of the wrong word, but and what that meant was I spent about half my time kind of solving problems and doing maths, and half my time speaking to people trying to get things done. For me personally, that was my best balance of work. 50% logic, 50% speaking to people. One of the reasons that I liked it was that I got very quick feedback on whether we did something good or bad. So if I changed what we were selling or changed the product or whatever, then I could see very quickly if our sales went up or down. And if they went up, you feel good. If they feel down, you feel bad, then you need to change something. So I liked that rapid feedback, if you like. And I also liked the balance. And I worked in various different areas as well. Uh, what's the point of that? I guess the point is that once you're actually in, you can decide your personal balance of maths and people. And you can skew all the way to kind of just maths. You can skew towards computer programming if you're interested in that, but you don't have to. Or you can skew all the way to words. So you would have some actuaries that chose to work in sales where they leave a lot of the maths behind. And your view of what you want to do can change over the course of your life. You know, I've done this for 30 years, and my view of what I want to do has certainly changed over the course of my life. And that makes it, I think, a really good profession to kind of get into because you can change it into what suits you. You basically just tell your manager what you want. What do actuaries think about? Got this slightly silly slide of this mouse with a helmet on, some cheese, mouse trap. So here, what we're interested in is what's the bad thing that could happen and what's the good thing that could happen. So the bad thing is the trap might snap and kill the mouse. And the good thing is the mouse might get away with the cheese. The actuary is interested in predicting the probability of the bad or the good thing happening. And as I say, you can use maths to do that nowadays or use computers. Also, the actuary needs to think about how can we change the odds? So how could I change the probability of the trap snapping or not snapping? Well, the mouse could try and take the cheese off really, really slowly, and maybe that lowers the risk of the trap snapping. And this crash helmet thing is supposed to suggest they could change the impact. So if the trap does snap, the mouse maybe doesn't die or doesn't get injured. Ultimately, we're trying to come up with a number, this taking into account this whole situation, the change in human behavior or the mouse's behavior, if certain incentives are in place, will then change what number or price we end up putting on this risk. And so this is the kind of thinking that actuaries are doing all the time, although not necessarily for mice and cheese. How do you become an actuary? Well, you have to pass lots of exams. And these exams are typically set by professional bodies. So in the UK and in other parts of the world, this is the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. And this kind of diagram on the right-hand side is the diagram for the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. But there are other professional bodies around the world as well that will have their own exams. So there are different ways, different places you, or let's say different organizations you can do the exams with. Once you get to the end, doesn't matter who you did it with, you're a qualified actuary. Um, but I'm going to talk about this one that's kind of called the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. So although you can't read the things that are on that's on this slide here, what's more important is just the number of bricks and the colors. So these purple ones, each one of these represents an exam you have to sit, and these are the maths exams. You have to do each of those. These green ones, you're starting to explain what the maths means in words. So when you're in a company, if you're speaking to somebody who also knows the maths, you can just speak in math speak. But if you're speaking to somebody who works in marketing or sales or customer services on the phones, dealing with real people, you need to be able to explain yourself in language they will understand. So these green ones start getting you to practice that. So you do all purple and you do all green. Then these orange, you don't have to do all of them. You only need to pick two. So this is where you're starting to specialize. And they have names like life insurance, investment, general insurance, health. So you pick the two that you want to do. And then this final row, the red one, you only just pick one of those. And this is your final specialization. So they have the same names as the orange ones. So for instance, you might specialize in life insurance or you might specialize in investment. Once you've got through all of that, and it is a lot, you do at least, oh, sorry, let me go back a slide. You do at least 2 years of work experience, and then you're qualified as an actuary. And you can do those 2 years at the same time as you're doing the exams. Routes to becoming an actuary. So there's basically two main routes. You've got to get through the exams, whichever you do, but you can do it in work, so whilst you're working, or you can do it whilst you're in university. And in work, takes 5 to 7 years maybe to qualify. If you do most of it in university, it's a bit quicker, 3 to 4 years to qualify, but you're still talking about a significant amount of time. Significant, it takes time in order to be successful with this. There are good things about both the workplace and the university, and there are bad things about both of them. So this is my summary. The best thing about the workplace is that you get money sooner. So once you've spent so many years working as a student, you're tired of not eating properly, or at least I was. And I wanted to get into the workplace and start earning. As it happens, what happened with me was I got that job with Standard Life, and then they sent me to Heriot-Watt to do the Masters in Actuarial Science for a year before I actually went to work for them. So I ended up doing a mixture. I ended up doing some university and some exams in the workplace. You start the work experience clock sooner. Remember, you need 2 years to get qualified. So as soon as you start, this starts. So that's quite nice. Downside is that when you're studying, might be evenings or weekends, typically by yourself. You can get online support, you can get online tutorials, companies can pay for that kind of thing. But yeah, it's up to you to get the exams done. With me at Standard Life, I had 2 study afternoons off a week that the company gave me. If you're looking at a company, you should ask yourself or ask them, how much time will you give me off to study? Some companies won't give you any time off, and you have to do it in your spare time. With my one, it was a good setup. The workplace around you gives you context. So this doesn't matter for the early maths exams, but for the later ones where you're explaining the maths in words, it's really helpful to see real life around you. Like you see what the salespeople complain about. You see what problems customer service has, and that just helps you with the exam questions later on. So that is certainly a nice thing. And part of the reason why Heriot-Watt employed me was to try and take my workplace examples into the lecture room to try and kind of counteract this advantage that people in the workplace have. Main thing about uni is that you get the exams done faster, and it's just great to get them out of the way. You're concentrating on the exams only. You don't have to worry about work. And this in itself helps boost pass rates. So university pass rates are higher than pass rates for people who are doing things direct with the actuarial profession. And part of it will just be focus, nothing to do with necessarily the teaching and stuff, but just on you and your situation. You also get this excellent safety net with some universities. Now, if you're looking at universities, you want to look for universities where the program is accredited, not the separate subjects. If the program has this word accredited, then that means that if you mess up an exam, but your average across all the exams is high enough, then you still get the pass from that exam that you messed up. So this really helps with the pass rate boost. You get to study in real life with real life teachers, and real life is always much more fun, much more engaging than doing stuff online. Okay, in terms of if you decided that actually, let's just quickly go back a slide. And of course, you can mix these up, right? So you could just do everything in uni, then go into work, or you could be in work, do it for a bit, then come into university to do some exams, then go back into the workplace. So you can decide which mix is right for you. And that's the most important thing to think about. Not necessarily Heriot-Watt or any other university, but just what is the right path if you're interested in this career. Okay, having said that, what are the Heriot-Watt solutions to all of this? How do we structure helping you become an actuary if you want to use us? So if you've done nothing actuarial yet, okay, you've just done your undergrad in whatever it's in, then there's two kind of programs that are good for you. One's called MSc in Actuarial Science, and one is called MSc in Actuarial Science and Management. So this is a 2-year program, and the first one is a 1-year program. MSc in Actuarial Science covers the purple exams, so that's all the math stuff. Science and Management does it all for you, or rather, you do it all, but do it with us. So do the purple exams, that's the maths, green exams, starting to be words, orange exams, full words. So that gets you basically one exam away from qualifying. If you've already passed some actuarial exams, then there are two options, actuarial management and actuarial management with data science. So these cover the green and orange exams, or the green and orange bricks from that earlier slide. Out of all of this, we've got about 90 students, maybe had about 80 this year, sorry, last year, 90 this year. And this data science bit basically means machine learning, or using the computer to solve stuff instead of maths. And this is getting more and more popular each year. If you're interested in this bit is, you're going to be doing coding on computers. If you like the idea of coding, then maybe this is for you. If you don't like the idea of coding, don't pick it. You don't have to be a coder to be an actuary, but you can do coding whilst being an actuary, and you can do a lot of it if you want to influence to do a lot of it. I'll just break that down in a little bit more detail. So actuarial science, MSc in actuarial science, it's the maths exams. I'll go back one. It's the maths exams. It's all those purple bricks. It's fully accredited. So if you mess something up, but your average is greater than or equal to 65, you still get the pass from the one you messed up. You're learning probability and statistics to predict the future. That's the idea. You do learn to use the programming language R, that's a statistics package. And there's also an introduction to Python that's kind of an online thing if you want to learn and use that. Actuarial management. So this is the second set. These are the words-based exams. You've got to learn how to explain the maths. And this makes you better at working in business. Covers the green ones, and then your choice of three out of the yellow ones. You only need to do two for the actuarial profession, but three is quite nice because it gives you extra background to help with interviews, but also if you mess one up, you should at least get the two. We've also got a subject called SP9 that gives you an extra qualification called SERA. And some people come to Heriot-Watt just because we offer this particular course. Again, the program is fully accredited, so you have that safety net. And if you want, with this program, you can swap one of these orange subjects for one of the purple one, well, two of the purple ones or one. So this allows you to catch up with any of the purple ones you're missing, or this set of the ones you're missing. We don't have CS1 within this program, and we don't have CM1 within this program, but I would expect you to have those in order to get into this program in the first place. Actuarial management and data science, just the same as what I said for the last one, but one of those orange subjects is replaced with machine learning. It's getting more popular. Arguably, it's going to be a lot of the future, but you don't have to go down this route if that doesn't work for you. All of the studying for those exams I've talked about takes place in the autumn semester and spring semester. And then in the summer, we do something a bit different. You do 2 5-week case studies. So those are like kind of big courseworks. And at the end of each 5 weeks, you write a 15-page report. That's quite nice because it's the kind of length of report that you would write in business, to get the board of directors to do what you want them to do. So you get to practice that twice. If you want, you can instead apply for something called an industry project. So out of the 90 students in the class at the moment, I'd say between 5 and 10 will end up doing an industry project instead of these case studies. That means that, so basically, what do? We tell you who the companies are, we tell you what the projects are, and then you apply, and then the company interviews you. If the company likes you, they offer you the place, and then you do your summer with the company. This is nice because it's good on your CV. They might offer you a job. They might ask you to interview for a job. The downside is it's one big thing in the summer. So with these 2 case studies, you can imagine you do slightly less well in one, you could do better in the other one and keep your score high. With this, all eggs are in one basket. You have to get that score high in order for your summer work score to be high. So you kind of decide whether it's worth the risk, I suppose. In terms of price reductions with these programs, probably the main one, if you want us to use us for everything, is the 2-year degree. So that's cheaper than doing the 2 single 1-year degrees. So it's cheaper than doing MSc in Actuarial Science and then MSc in Actuarial Management. If you're on the 1-year degree, you can switch into the 2-year degree. If you come to us on the 2-year degree and you decide to just do 1 year, you can switch back out. So it's quite flexible. The only hassle really is sorting out your visa if you do change stuff. So yeah, so there's that. Then we have Heriot-Watt Actuarial Award for Academic Excellence. So this is quite nice. So gives you 20% discount on fees. Basically, if you've got good undergraduate scores, or maybe you've got some past work experience, or maybe for some of the other programs, you've got quite a lot of the kind of early exams. So this gets assessed as soon as you apply. So if you get it, you'll see it on your offer. If you don't get it, you won't see it on your offer. So you know really quickly whether you've got this or not, which is nice. You don't have to wait. Any of our existing graduates from our existing undergrad programs or postgrad programs get an alumni fee discount. So that's also 20% off fees. Okay, what I'm going to do now is switch to Dhruvi and Antoine, and they can tell you a bit about what they think from their perspective rather than my perspective as a teacher. Okay, let me just go to the next slide.
Thanks, Andrew. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Dhruvi Sonigara, and I am currently an MSc Actuarial Management student at Heriot-Watt University. So, today, I'll give you a clear picture of what it's like to study an actuarial science at Heriot-Watt. It's not just about academics, but also about the student life, the professional recognition, and the career prospects here. So, if you're considering becoming an actuary or choosing where to study, I hope this gives you a realistic insight. Um, Next slide, please. So, teaching and exemptions, we have covered a bit on this, but let's just go a bit more in detail. So, one of the biggest trends, or I'll call it as green flags of the actuarial program at Heriot-Watt, is its quality of teaching and the professional accreditation. So, first, learning is very hands-on and face-to-face. Every course includes typically 4 hours per week of contact time. So, this is like a combination of lectures plus tutorials. So during the lectures, it's all your professors teaching you, giving you their knowledge, teaching you the concepts, the ideas, and then during the tutorials, you actually apply them. So this is like a perfect combination of 4 hours, where for the first 2 or 3 hours you're learning, and then for the rest of the hours you are applying those. So this makes like a real big difference. The second is the program is fully accredited by the IFOA. So the exemptions is what I'm talking about, which is what we all will be here for. So there are two routes to gain your exemption. The first is the individual route, and then the second is the average route. So let's talk about the individual route of the exemptions. So for the individual route, you need like about 60 to 65% marks in each of the subjects to get your exemptions on the individual subjects. Like sounds a bit difficult, so there's like another route to get your exemption, that's the average route. So you have like a block of subjects, and all the subjects which are included in your block become a part of the average route, where your average marks for all the subjects need to be above 60 to 65%. So say you mess up in one subject or score a little below 60, and then you do really well in other subject, the average of all your subjects included in the block goes above 60, and then you get exemptions on all your subjects, those which are included in the block. So this is like a real plus point of having the average route of exemption. The next good bit is the coursework. So the coursework like contributes to around 20% of your final marks. So it is actually a very good thing, because you are building your scores from day one, like consistently throughout the semester, and you're not just relying on your final or the last exam to build your scores. The coursework is sometimes like a proper exam, which helps you to prepare for your final exams even between the semester. Sometimes it's like a proper assignment kind of thing, which makes you think beyond your actual syllabus. Not beyond your actual syllabus, it is of course related to the syllabus, but still it's more of you thinking rather than doing book work or studying what's there already in the book. Can we have the next slide? So, enough of books teaching exemptions. Let's talk about a little bit of life beyond book. So, as a student at Heriot-Watt, you will be studying with like a global student community, and you'll be working alongside people from different countries, different academic backgrounds, different cultures. And that peer-to-peer learning is sometimes as important as what you are learning in class. It gives you like diverse perspectives to your already existing knowledge. So that's a very helpful thing. the campus environment here. The campus environment plays a big role. There are various facilities, few of which are like the grid building, the lodge, and the 24/7 library access, which is where you will spend most of your time as a student completing your assignments, studying, solving your tutorials. So these facilities balance between focus and well-being of the student. It's like a very supportive place to study. It's a calm place during busy periods, and it will really enhance your productivity more than what you will be able to sit and study in your rooms alone. Um, Another advantage of studying at Heriot-Watt is its location. So it's based like just 25 minutes away from the Edinburgh city centre, and it is UK's second large financial hub after London. So this means you are studying in a place which which already has strong connections to finance, insurance, consulting, government institutions. So you have best of both the worlds. You have a peace, calm, nice campus environment, and at the same time you have a vibrant international city life and excellent professional opportunities. So it's like a plus from both the sides. Can we have the next slide? So your career starts here. So let's focus on this big number, 93%. So let me tell you, it's like a good news. 93% of the actuarial graduates from Heriot-Watt get fully employed within 6 months of graduation. These graduates like go on to work at the leading organizations like PwC, Deloitte, Aviva, Bank of England, and many more. So it has a very strong track record when it comes to graduate outcomes. And not to forget, this success is supported by a dedicated career support team who is always there to help you with your CVs, your applications, your interview preparation, one-on-one feedbacks on your CVs, your interviews, your applications, and everything. So they really help you get there in terms of your job, your career. There are also regular employer visits, presentations, career fairs held at the universities, which gives you direct exposure to the industry. It helps you network with the industry people, and also additionally, you have access to the UK's first and the most established actuarial alumni network. So the networking helps you get direct exposure into the industry. There are also networking events like the Student Actuarial Society, the Student Actuarial Society annual conference, which is like a good place to start your career from. So at the end, I was just like to conclude that studying actuarial science at Heriot-Watt is much more than academic knowledge. It combines like strong professional exemption. It has a strong supportive student environment and excellent career prospects, so all within one of the UK's leading financial cities. So as a student at Heriot-Watt, I can confidently say that Heriot-Watt offers all the tools, support, and opportunities need to succeed in both the university life as well as the actuarial profession. That's all from my side. Thank you so much, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dhruvi. Okay, Antoine.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dhruvi and Andrew. Hello, everyone. First of all, it's really great to see so many future actuaries as part of today's webinar. So my name is Antoine. I'm, like Dhruvi, one of the postgraduate students at Heriot-Watt, currently tackling the one-year MSc in Actuarial Management with data science. So over the next couple of minutes, I'll be sharing a bit more of a personal point of view of why Heriot-Watt, why this program, and why this could be a good fit for you, building, of course, on what Andrew and Dhruvi have shared so far. Next slide, please, Andrew. So to give you some background, 1 year ago, I also had the same question in mind after completing 3 years of a degree with actual science and mathematics as a background. And the questions were really, okay, what gaps do I still have in my academics, in my experience, and really in this toolbox point of view? And I did find that it was incomplete. And some of the key things I found out that I needed was how to actually build and nurture a network, which is the sub point you're seeing on the bottom left, And with the AI wave that we're surfing as well, how can I jump on this new trend? And how could I not only gain actuarial skill sets, but leverage new technologies to really apply that in a different manner in the actual industry or during my career? So, Heriot-Watt University, for the postgraduate and specifically for that particular master's I'm taking, really helps bridge over these particular gaps. So Andrew mentioned that with the master's degree, you can also gain the CIRA or SP9 exemption. And this, at least for me personally, is incredibly interesting, but more importantly, helps bridge over this risk-conscious mindset that an actuary really should wield as part of the toolbox for their career, but also just as a way of having a very professional mental framework. And what I mean by that is not only being able to think from the macro point of view, like a chief risk executive officer, but also going down into the micro department level, even very niching down to a client specific problem. So those really are the four key things I was looking for when I was looking through different master's programs, different accreditations, and hence jumped onto the Heriot-Watt ship, which I am now soon to complete during the year. Next slide, please, Andrew. So this short slide here is really to help encapsulate what both main semesters look like. Of course, Andrew also mentioned semester 3 is more about the dissertation and completing the more qualitative and even vocal aspects needed to complete your actuarial toolbox. So on my end, I originally wanted to go into general insurance or even reinsurance, specifically regarding natural catastrophe. Now, the great thing about the Heriot-Watt postgraduate diplomas is that this year they've actually introduced a general insurance course. As you're seeing here in semester 1 and semester 2, there's reserving and pricing. And the double great thing about this is both semesters actually yield a SP exemption, which is one of the exams you must take, one of the orange exams that you must take for the IFOA accreditation. So in the single 2 semester course, you gain 2 SP exemptions on that note. Furthermore, of course, you also can do machine learning, pensions, life insurance. There's a myriad of different choices and specializations you can take as part of this program. And the lectures are fantastic. For example, Professor Andrew here teaches the actual risk management course. And not only is it fascinating of a subject, but there's also, as you've seen and experienced while Andrew was presenting, there's storytelling being weaved throughout the different teachings about standard life, how we can actually apply what we're learning, and really envision the applicativeness of what's being taught during these lessons. So with that said, if I were to do it all again, would I take this diploma, be at Heriot-Watt, and really go through the same grind? Because it is a challenge to go through this work, but it is interesting and definitely yields the rewards that makes the whole time and money investment worth it. So yes, I would definitely do it again. Next slide, please, Andrew. So to summarize, 2 things. One, the Heriot-Watt postgrad experience is really well nurtured. Furthermore, because it's just on the outskirts of Edinburgh city, accommodation-wise, it is affordable. It's a student-friendly city. You can live on campus and then access the bus or the tram. It's really well interconnected to go into the city, as well as the greater region of Scotland and the UK as a whole. The way you integrate with different societies, as Dury mentioned, but also with the students, which is a very diverse class from all over the world, makes the culture aspect, but also your understanding, not only of what's being taught, but how you converse with your peers. This is what Drew was saying about peer-to-peer experience, really makes it worth it. And furthermore, there's also different clubs and societies within, of course, our department and the university as a whole. But there's also the Oriam Sports Centre on campus, which, for example, the Scottish national rugby team do occasionally train at to show the extent of how the sports really lives within Heriot-Watt University. And I personally love it to play some squash after 2 hours of study time. There's also tennis courts, football pitches, etc. So I love it personally. I spend almost as much time there as revising for the upcoming assignments and tests that we're about to have. And really, to wrap it up, what I thought was a launchpad into general insurance and reinsurance. But since doing the postgraduate diploma, I've also had a greater interest into insurtech, i.e., entrepreneurship, wrapping that around what we're being taught in actuarial science. And one thing that's really good about Heriot-Watt is not only its alumni and professional networking bodies that's easily accessible, but is that you have the option to meet other entrepreneurs and even spin off your own business if that's something you're interested in. And I think having both the actual mindset, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the skill set of understanding machine learning algorithms really completes what I call the complete actuarial toolbox. Hence, I think Heriot-Watt and the particular diplomas being offered are excellent, and I would do it all over again, 100%. And that's not Heriot-Watt paying me to say this. This is really my own opinion on all of that. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be happy to answer some questions later on.
Thanks, Antoine. I think that's right. It's just, so you've got this mathematical toolkit, but you're not, I mean, you could be a researcher, but that's not what you're really focusing on. You're focusing on learning how to apply that stuff in business, make a business run well. And that's where you eventually get to at the end. So I have a few slides left. There's some overlap with what Dhruvi and Antoine said, so I'll skip over anything where there's too much of that. Teaching and exemptions, we've covered real life, 4 hours of contact time with a lecturer, fully accredited. Exams last 2 or 3 hours, and you also got typically 20% coursework on each course. For programming, like machine learning type courses, it's more like 50% coursework. We have this badge from the Society of Actuaries, which is the kind of actuarial profession in North America. They came across to Europe and they awarded this badge to us first. So it's a kind of recognition of quality. So basically, they looked at our research. Is it good enough? They looked at our teaching. Is it good enough? They spoke to the students. Do the students think it's good enough? And only by passing all 3 tests do they award this badge. So it's really nice that we have it. It's somebody that's not us that's saying that we're good at what we do. And we would expect to keep it for many years into the future. In terms of your career, we know that we need to prepare you for work, so it's easy for you to get the right job and successfully interview for that job. And we want you to perform well in that job. Although the careers service exists and it gives you like lots of stuff, they'll check your CV, you can practice interviews with them, practice assessment centers with them. Really, it's all of the courses are built to prepare you for operating well in business. So I wouldn't think of careers as a separate thing. It's almost kind of built into what we're trying to get you ready for. We were the first university in the UK to offer an actuarial program, so we've been doing this for a long time. It's maybe best shown via this kind of little diagram on the bottom left. So we're training the students to perform well in business. Then the businesses like Heriot-Watt graduates because of this. So they want Heriot-Watt graduates, and because we're aware of this, we then train our students to perform well in business. So we're forever going round and round and round this loop. These are just a couple of screenshots from the Careers Service website. So even if you aren't meeting them in real life to talk about your CV and stuff, there's just lots of kind of little webinar-y things or little kind of online courses you can do to kind of help prepare you if you want to make use of this kind of thing. In terms of people who have come through Heriot-Watt in the past, 26 of our alumni are chief executive officers in companies around the world. 5 of our alumni have been past presidents of professional actuarial associations. And lots of people on boards of directors or who are partners of consulting firms. So lots of people from the past who have been successful in their career have passed through Heriot-Watt. These are just a couple of screenshots from LinkedIn. This one on the left was Abby Chen. She went to work for Gen Re, which is a reinsurance company. This is Jonathan and Hymans Robertson, which was a consultancy. As Dhruvi said, well over 90% of people employed, but where are they going? I would say about half into insurance companies, about half into actuarial consultancies. So these are companies that then provide advice to insurance companies, and up to about 10% with other kinds of employers. So things like the regulator who checks that insurance companies and consultancies are doing the right thing. This slide just shows a few of the different names of these kinds of companies, like Aviva. They do life insurance and something called general insurance. So they insure you if you die, but also they insure your home, for instance, or if you break your phone. Legal and General, quite similar. KPMG, this is a consultancy, so it would provide services to somebody like Aviva or Legal and General. Gen Re is a reinsurance company, so it provides insurance to a company like Aviva. So everybody's in insurance or doing insurance. Moody's is a credit rating agency, so they would like say this is a strong company and give it a triple A rating, or they'd say this is a weak company and give it a C rating. So people kind of use the ratings that this body produces. Anything else worth pointing out? Oh, Bank of England, that's the regulator in the UK. Campus. So when you look at unis in the UK or elsewhere, they'll set up in different kinds of ways. So our university is definitely a campus university. It's all kind of self-contained in an area that's just outside Edinburgh. So there's a lot of kind of green space around about you. It's quite a quiet, peaceful environment. If you want to just live on campus, you can. Everything you need is here: libraries, shops, healthcare, etc. But if you want to get into the city, to access the city, then you can. There's buses going all the time. It takes about 30 minutes to get in and out. Edinburgh is the financial centre of Scotland, and Scotland is in the United Kingdom, and London is the financial centre of the United Kingdom. So if you're applying for jobs, you're likely to have job interviews in and around Edinburgh, but also possibly in and around London. So it's quite quick to access between them. You can go by train or you can go by plane. This picture here is of Edinburgh. It's taken from Edinburgh Castle. This car park here gets built up in the summer into a big stadium, and that's where something called the Edinburgh Military Tattoo takes place that you might have heard of. That's a bit of sea down there. And this big hill thing is called Arthur's Seat, and the city actually goes all the way around it. The city's really hilly, so when you're up high, you get all these views, and then when you're down low, you're waiting to get up high to see the kind of views again. Okay. So in conclusion, lots of different MSc programs to get you ready as an actuary. So depending on your situation, you can access at different points. If you've not done anything, MSc in Actuarial Science. If you've already done some exams, MSc in Actuarial Management or Management with Data Science. There are price reductions. There's that 2-year thing. There's the Scholarship for Academic Excellence. There's the alumni discount. We'll get you ready for work and able to interview well. We've been doing this for a long time, so we know what we're doing. If you want to do programming type stuff, you can. You can choose the machine learning courses. If you don't want that, don't choose them. There's the additional CIRA qualification. If you're interested in that, so that's the one that Antoine was talking about. And you get to do this in the Financial Centre, Edinburgh, which is in Scotland, in the United Kingdom. We'll email all these slides to you. This slide just has all the links to our websites and stuff, so you can check that out. And we'll also email contact details. So, if you want to ask me any questions, for instance, later on that you don't think of just now, then you can do that. Okay, that's me. I can pass back to you, Gareth.
Excellent, thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate there are many, many students watching live right now. They've tuned in straight to the end. We've heard from students, we've heard from an associate professor, and now I'm going to answer some of your questions. Apologies if you can hear a bit of background noise. Where we are in the UK, it's absolutely pouring down with rain, which, if you've been to the UK or if you know the UK well, that's not too uncommon. Now, if we try and get through the questions as quickly as we can, we'll try and paraphrase a few perhaps. Andrew, this you may or may not know this is more of an admissionsy types of question. We've got a student here that's from Nigeria, where English is the primary language, of course, and they've therefore asked, do we need a English proficiency test, English, TOEFL, IELTS? Does that matter if they're in an employment with an English speaking role? It might be that Sarah, who's in the background, might be able to answer that also.
Um, well, I could try, and then
Yeah,
and Sarah can tell me if I'm wrong. So, as far as I understand it, if, for instance, you've done your undergrad degree and your undergrad degree has been taught in English, then that's good enough for us. If it wasn't, then we'd need like evidence of some kind of test. I would expect Nigeria is totally cool. Sarah, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll just pop in quickly. So from Nigeria, especially, we're looking for a C6 in your school exams. So if you have that, we don't require any further evidence. If you don't have that, then yeah, we would look for a further test or potentially some sort of MOI if we can get that from your transcripts. There is a really detailed English language page on our website which covers all countries. So if you're here from a different country and have a similar question, check out the English language page on the website.
excellent. Well answered, both of you. Thank you. If I can keep them going on kind of admissionsy types of questions, someone has asked, can I get a job afterwards? I think we've kind of covered the the career service, Andrew, and you've mentioned about the different job opportunities. But do you want to elaborate further on that and what makes it such a great uni to come to, or to come to? Not only the global links, but obviously you're in a capital city in Europe, aren't you? So that's key.
It's up to you to get the job. That's certainly true. Um, and the more interviews you get, the better you get at interviews. So you really want to get as many interviews as possible. The way to get interviews is to make sure that your application forms and your CVs are great. I think the best way to imagine it is that if somebody's looking at your CV, they've got 50 on the table and they're not looking for anything amazing. They're looking for reasons to throw it in the bin. So I've got 50 CVs and I need to interview 5 people. I read the first one, bad spelling, in the bin. Read the next one, it's 5 pages long, in the bin. Read the next one, it's obviously been done by AI, in the bin.
Mm.
Anything, and then once I get to the end, the 5 that are left aren't necessarily amazing, but they haven't made any mistakes. So what the career service will certainly help train you to do is make sure that all that written stuff you send off in the first place doesn't have any mistakes. So you're going to get through that first hurdle. After that, you got to learn how to do interviews, which is about how to answer certain kinds of questions. Train you to do that. But that's a game. Once you're in, you just play that game of they ask certain kinds of questions. You expect you answer those questions. If you do that well, what's left is luck. Does that the person on the other side of that table like you, and do you like them? So if you got the luck and you've done the training, you get the job. If you don't have the luck, you don't get the job. It doesn't matter how well you answer those questions.
Andrew, to elaborate further on that as well, I think, look, actuary, risk, we're talking statistics and numbers here. It's a game where you can't afford to make mistakes necessarily. So how important is that at that stage you are taking the care and attention to every aspect of your application or whatever it might be to make sure that that happens because you won't get a second chance sometimes, will you?
University is the place to make mistakes. The classroom is a safe space. You mess up by saying the wrong thing to somebody next to me or the wrong thing to me. I correct you, you learn. When you're in the lift with the CEO going up to the top floor, you have 30 seconds that makes or breaks your career. You don't make a mistake then. Um, so, uh, so really, uni's your playground to practice and mess up. And then once you go out live, if we've done our job well, you're as prepared as you can be to perform in that environment. And like, for instance, I used to hate presentations. Now I still get slightly stressed about presentations, but I can do them. Like that's not, it's not whatever you might think of this session today, it is not a natural thing, and certainly not when you're standing up in front of lots of real life people, but it is learnable. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just part of the stuff that you develop.
Okay. A couple of questions around the what the trends might be over the next couple of decades. We have had one student. I've come from a life insurance and actuarial background. I've applied for an MSc at the university. My question is, what do you see as the biggest challenge, Andrew, for life insurers over the next decade as mortality and morbidity trends continue to change? Great question, by the way. But if you'd like to answer as best as you can from a subjective point of view, certainly.
Well, you get lots of kind of medical advances that change things, and also different kind of changes in what doctors say and do. So, for instance, you might have a contract that pays out if somebody gets cancer. No, a better example, pays out if somebody gets a heart attack. And some years ago, the doctors developed a new test, and this test would test, say, me or you or somebody who's 20 years old, and they'd be able to tell you you've had 5 heart attacks so far.
Yeah.
Now, what they mean by that when they say heart attack is something that's so small, it's not something that we meant when we wrote heart attack in the current terms and conditions. So something's changed in the world, and suddenly it's completely screwed up our pricing. We're going to lose a lot of money when we pay out for a gazillion heart attacks. So this kind of thing happens all the time, and you just need to try and be aware of what's happening in the world, in this case medically, in order to kind of stay up to date with that. Generally, it's true that people are definitely living longer, and so various countries around the world that offer kind of pensions to their population will be facing bigger and bigger costs. They need to figure out how to handle that. One way will be increasing taxes. Another way will be just increasing the age at which we retire. So, for instance, it used to be the case that in the UK, somebody like me would retire at 65. I think I'll be working till like 73 or 74. So, so there are different ways in which that can be handled. I guess the main thing is that it's not just about numbers. You need to figure out how real life will change the numbers. So you kind of look to the future, think about what's going to happen, and then make a judgment as to how prices or numbers should change. Just because this past data says something doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be like in the future. In terms of just general life and world population, the world population will top out and then perhaps start coming down. And just in terms of how we manage the world, I feel positive about that. It means that the problem of sustainability, climate change is solvable. There is a maximum limit to the number of human beings that will be on this planet. Whereas if we were going to keep growing infinitely, then there's no way out. It's just a disaster. We have to follow Elon to Mars. So yeah, so I kind of feel quite positive about the future. I think actuaries will play a big role in that. I think that um, although data science and stuff is new, you still need judgment. Like ChatGPT says something, I still need to decide whether I agree with it or not, okay, or I'm going to use it or not. And you're learning the skills to make that decision. You're still going to need humans, whatever tech we develop.
It's important, yeah. Whatever the tech is, you need people to manage it. Another question that's come in. I've applied for the actuarial management program. Is there any flexibility with making your mind up whether the data science or the actuarial program is best for me? And off the back of that, what's the main assessment method and how big are the class sizes and class types? Is it mainly a lecture seminar? I think you've alluded, yourself personally, you weren't very good with presentations. So what can a student typically expect?
Um, what was the first part of that question again?
They flip, but they've
Oh,
applied
the
for the
data science
actuarial
management.
management. Can
Yeah,
data
yeah,
science, can they
yeah,
change?
yeah. So extremely easy. If you apply for the data science one, once you're here in the first 2 weeks, you can still flip to the other one, and vice versa. If you've come on the management one within the first 2 weeks, you can flip to the other one. So basically, you arrive, you can go to all the lectures if you want, anything you might be interested in, and then pick your subjects as long as it's by the end of week 2. And if that means a program change, we can process a program change too. So I wouldn't worry about which one you lock onto when you apply or you get an offer for. That's not an issue. Um, Second part of the question was.
The second part of the question was, what can they expect the classroom sizes to be like? The learning, is it assessment based? What does that look like? And likewise, to give the student a little bit of help there, if we compare it to the data science program, how does it differ?
Okay. Um, so class size in a big compulsory course. So for instance, CP1 is a compulsory course. Everybody has to do that on the management program. Class size is about 60, just over 60 this year.
Yeah.
In the past, class sizes 40, 50, 60. Um, I don't know whether we get a bit bigger this year or not. Maybe we hit 70. So that's quite a big class. But with everything else, well, and machine, yeah, no, let's keep going. And with everything else, you pick. So different people are going to pick different choices, and that reduces the class size. So for instance, pensions this year, I think maybe 15 people in the class. That's quite nice. You can make that class really interactive. Whereas class with 60 people, it's much more standard lecture. I'd be standing there speaking, you're writing stuff down. Um, so yeah, the teaching experience will vary kind of across the different class sizes. Um,
Okay.
Data science, I, off the top of my head, I would say that's probably max 20 people this year, I would say. But Antoine will know.
Antoine, would you like to come back on at this point? Apologies, we've not really got around to you at the moment, but what's the classrooms like? What's the environment like? What the sizes like because of it?
So it's definitely a smaller class compared to what Andrew was alluding to of the main set of obligatory classes. We're about, I'd say maybe 12 to 15,
Yeah.
pretty much week in, week
Mm.
out. And in terms of atmosphere, um, lectures are great, so it's fun to learn this kind of subject. And we also have the ability to program while listening to the lecture. So that means we can type in different things as we're listening in and see what happens on when we process the code, for example. So we learn the theoretical side of things and apply it at the same time, which I think is quite interesting to do.
Yeah. Superb. Well, I've got both the students on. Let's have a quick catch up with you. Obviously, it's been a while since we heard from you now. Some of the questions that have come in are around the campus, the environment, the city. Obviously, you've both been international students yourself. If I can start with yourself, Antoine. I know we've just heard from you, but off air we were talking about your background. You're well traveled. You've gone around the globe. But what was it that made Heriot-Watt stand out for you and Edinburgh stand out for you?
Good question. So going back a step, just to give you some context. So I am French, but I grew up in Singapore, in the Middle East, and in the Netherlands. What then led me to choose Heriot-Watt or the domain of actuarial sciences was two things. One was being exposed to different natural catastrophes around these regions. So how do you actually assess the risk of such hazards, and how do you put a financial number or price tag, if you will, to said risks? And the second point was in the Netherlands. One of my neighbors actually was a European Space Agency engineer. So then I thought, oh, that'd be quite cool to also insure space insurance related risks. So with that said, what domain or what field does one hop into to be able to do that as a career? And becoming an actuary was a natural transition. And what's one of the best, if not the best, university in exemptions, teaching, accreditation, recognition, and the professional network, Heriot-Watt came number one pretty much in all of those
Mm.
respects. So that was really the thought process that emerged out of my background, essentially.
Great stuff. Dhruvi, can I ask you at this point as well? Obviously, we were talking again off air. We talked about your background and again traveled. I think Indian background you mentioned, and then you had offices in London, obviously post graduation and stuff like that. But if we can hear from yourself in terms of what made you go for that program specifically at Heriot-Watt? Was it the city? Was it the program? Was it the uni?
So, yeah, again, coming back to my background, I'd done my bachelor's in statistics and then worked for a while. So, while I was working, I had a lot of colleagues based out of London and Edinburgh as well. So, a mix of both London and Edinburgh. And the colleagues from Edinburgh always spoke about the weather in Edinburgh. It's sunny on one day and winter the other day and rainy the other day. So, I was always just wondering, like, why it's always like the discussions are always around Edinburgh. Why are you all not talking about the weather in London or any other place? So that's where I got to know about Edinburgh as a city, how beautiful it is as a place. I never had any idea about Heriot-Watt earlier, so it was just Bayes Business School and Kent on my list. And then slowly I realized that a lot of people from my workplace are from Heriot-Watt, so I started finding more about it. What's so special about it that people are like people around me at the workplace are more inclined towards Heriot-Watt. Like also when I went for advice to them, they were more inclined towards Heriot-Watt and not the other two. So it was about the uni life here. It was about the quality of teaching, the accreditation, the exemption, the professional recognition, and the city itself, the beauty of the city. So that's what made like my decision go from the other two to
Yeah.
the Heriot-Watt, like completely changed my list. And this was the only uni I applied then. I didn't even consider the other two.
Can I ask you both, Antoine, as well? Apologies, Andrew. We'll come back to some questions in a minute. But Duvri and Antoine, did it surprise you both about the international nature of the university? Because one of the things that struck me when I visited the university to meet the staff, is just how many international students there are. And it makes for a great culture, doesn't it? Antoine, if I'm coming to you to begin with.
Surprise? No, because that was one of the things I really loved when doing the research about Harry Watts, and that was one of the key factors of me wanting to go there in the first place. So not surprised, but excited that that
Yeah.
was reality at the campus, if you will.
Yeah. And Duvri yourself?
Again, not surprised because I'd already been working with people from diverse cultures, so not that surprised. But yeah, coming here was like a real different experience, and people from different cultures studying with them in the class, experiencing a complete different life. So it was real fun. Not a culture shock, but yes, a complete different experience. And to be honest, it was lovely.
Antoine, Dhruvi, thank you for your time. Andrew and Sarah, if you'd like to come on at this point quickly, I think there's one area and topic we haven't really covered properly yet, especially in the Q&A, and that's funding and scholarships. And there are plenty of students asking the question, really interested in this. It's just not affordable for me, not fully anyway. What opportunities are there? I know we kind of covered it a little bit in the presentation, but just to elaborate on that point further, just to conclude, what should students do to look for funding, scholarship, sponsorship, perhaps? And how do they go about getting that attached to their application? Sarah, if I can start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So for scholarships in particular, we have a range of scholarships that we'll offer throughout the year. So it's always best to check the scholarships pages of our website. If we have any automatically applied scholarships, i.e., one that you qualify for without having to apply for, we will add that to your offer as we make the offer. If you feel like you have missed the scholarship that we have available, or if you have any questions, then we have a dedicated scholarships team who you can access as well. And they have an email address again on that scholarships page of our website. But what I would say to everyone is keep checking throughout the year because some scholarships get launched a little bit later in the year, some scholarships are really early. So please do keep checking the website and you can apply for a scholarship whenever it comes up. You don't have to wait for a particular time of year and it can always be added to your offer at a later stage as well. So it doesn't have to be at point of application.
Andrea, do you want to elaborate further on that as well with sponsorship as well? There's plenty of people asking, I've got I want to get sponsored. I want to come to the UK. How important is it that it's the right time for the student to study this program?
Um, I guess one thing to say is that there is differential pricing between the UK and the rest of the world. So if you don't need a visa, then it's much cheaper. It's about half the price of the kind of baseline everybody else price. Um, uh, in terms of the scholarship that is used most often, it's the academic excellence one.
Yeah,
And that's the 20% off if you qualify for it. And as I say, you'll know when you get your offer whether you got that or not. Doesn't cost you anything to send in an application, so you can find out relatively easily and also relatively quickly. External to Heriot-Watt, you do get students that make use of a UK-wide scholarship thing called the Chevening scholarship or Chevening scheme. I can't remember exactly how it's described.
cheapening, yes.
Chevening. Okay, so you can look that up. You can look that up on the web. Now, I think that's closed for this year, but I can't remember when it opens. But
It's August, Andrew. August to November. We're actually partners with Chevening, so that works quite well for
okay,
us.
so it's August to November. So that is a route to getting all the fees paid, etc., to get into the UK. It is expensive, and that is definitely a barrier. And you should bear in mind that you don't just need enough money to pay your fees. You also need enough money to live, and you have to demonstrate that when you come in to the UK authorities. So you have to have enough money uh, to cover your expenses per month for the whole year when you come in. So that's a big amount of cash to have up front, and that is definitely a challenge. You'll find when you go through that process that they require you to have more if you're going to be living in London, and anywhere outside of London, it's a bit less. Sometimes that's relevant to some people.
Excellent. Okay. I do want to finish on 2 points. Before we get to the intake dates and how to apply, I know you had a nice slide there and what the next steps are. I want to talk about the type of student. One student has asked here, in particular, do you accept mature students who want to change their career paths and have the requisite qualifications? I suppose A, that's key. You know, you're at a certain point in your career, absolutely. But B, one of the biggest and emerging areas that we've seen at postgrad.com is the enhancement of the amount of students that are what we would class as mature students, perhaps plus 30, who are now studying postgrad courses. Presuming within the cohort, let's say it's 50 to 60 in the classroom for actuarial, that there is a huge mix of not only nationalities but age ranges.
I would say the vast majority are in their 20s. So people who have just completed an undergrad, or maybe they've worked for like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and then maybe come back. And then sometimes in a year, you might get a couple of students that are maybe 40s, something like that. So they've had a career. Maybe they've just not completed the exams yet, even though they've done an actuarial career and they just want to get it out of the way. That kind of thing can happen. So um, so yeah,
Yeah.
and the class is welcoming. I've not seen any issues with any of the older students fitting in or anything like that. If anything, they just work harder. Um, so
Look,
yeah.
everyone's at a different stage of their career, aren't they? Okay, let's finish off with intake dates, how to apply. Stereotypically, intake dates are September, January intake dates. Is this one rigid September, or are there alternative start dates also? Sarah, this might be one for you as well to just pop on, and how can they apply?
Yep, as we said, so applications are free, so it is always worth popping in an application. We can always assess what qualifications you've got, what experience you've got. We work really closely with Andrew and everyone else from the actuarial department, so definitely please pop an application in. In terms of dates, you've got until around July to apply, but we do recommend getting your application in early, especially if you're overseas. It just gives enough time to process through visas and get everything in order to make sure we've got all your transcripts, all your documents, etc. And then in terms of enrolment dates, we're looking at early September for enrolment this year. So yeah, pop your application in and then you can get everything sorted before that enrolment date, early September.
Excellent. Andrew and Sarah, thank you for your time. Really appreciate that. Dhruvi and Antoine also, the webinar and the session wouldn't be as engaging, as fantastic without you guys committing your time. So a huge thank you to you both, and we really hope to see you again in the future. And if you need anything from Postgrad Solutions in terms of enhancement on the CV, on LinkedIn, let us know. We're more than happy to help you with that. And to all those students that are watching, that have hung around and watched a highly engaging session as well for just over 75 minutes, thank you for staying on and watching and showing your interest. Everyone watching, if you've asked questions, we haven't answered your question, we will make sure that Andrew and the team at Heriot-Watt have got all the questions that have been asked and who you are. We'll try and reach out to you personally. I know they're very good at that. And we've got all your details. If you have missed today's session, we'll send you a copy of today's webinar. Thank you for watching. Thank you to those involved and those in the background. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.